the club approaches from in, it automatically happens. As I come in, my arm and hand starts to rotate back to square, hits the ball, arm swings, it continues to lead the club. It doesn't let the club go by. My right shoulder is giving way, allowing my right arm to move. My right hip moves in response to my right shoulder. My right knee moves in response to my hip, and my heel starts to come off the ground. As I continue to swing the club up and around into the back of my neck, you can see that my heel is off the ground on my right foot. My knee's bent in, and I'm looking down the target saying, oh no! That's how all that works. Now, anyone who tries to think of all that in a second to a second and a half is nuts. Can't do it. So you have to train yourself to the feel of it. Feel the left arm swinging back and the body giving it up and swinging all the way through and around. Going back to the most critical part of all of it was the pace of your swing. Back and down, even. Not harder coming down. Back and down, back, down. But if you swung the club at a smooth enough pace, and I hold the club extremely light, and I try, the biggest issue I have is if I get a little fast, I'll start to feel that, and that's what changes my grip pressure. So if I make a good swing, my pace is very smooth going back, and I hold the club position-wise, I be very light, and I just let it reach its point, and swing back down and through and around. The goal is to not let it get fast. Mm-hmm. That's what gives you the feeling of how it's supposed to feel? Yes and no. Everybody's plane is different, and you have to talk about which plane you're trying to focus on, because there's a plane for your right arm and hand in the club, there's a plane for your left arm and hand in the club, there's a plane that's from the ball over your shoulders. The idea of a swing plane has gotten so confusing. So personally, I don't use that. I do a lot of things that I try to paint my own pictures. And video is a tricky thing. It's tricky because if the camera angles aren't correct, it's very deceiving what you're seeing. So until we have an opportunity to have fixed camera angles, I don't even mess with it. For two reasons. I want the student to think about what I want them to think about. And the minute they look at that, and I can remember the first time I ever used video, and I was a video junkie when it first came out. Club I was at up north, the Sony distributor was one of my members, and he got this new Betamax thing and he brought it out, and oh man, was it exciting. And then the first time I had 3 ladies out there on the driving range. I said, let me tape your swing and we'll show you what it looks like. It wasn't their swing that caught my attention. The minute they looked at it, oh my God, it makes me look fat. I am never going on this thing again. It's like, talk about killing technology, that did it right then and there. You know, the point was though, and video has its place, don't misunderstand me. There is a lot of good things that can be done with it. But if you don't know what you're looking at, then what has to happen is we got to explain. It's knowing the cause and effects are everything in golf. It's like driving a car. The minute you get in the right-hand gutter, you're going to have to turn left, whether you like it or not. Otherwise, you're going over the cliff on the right. So it's constant adjustment. Trying to give you the feel and the thought process is hard enough painting my pictures. But when you all of a sudden are looking at a video and you're thinking about, oh, I want my finish to look like this or like that or whatever, you're inhibiting where I'm trying to go with it. I'll just give you one quick story. When I was in college and I started working on my game with Bob Toski, I was playing for the University of Miami, and one of my teammates introduced me to him. And boy, did I have the questions. I had all these golf books that I'd gotten out of the library, and I had this page marked and I had this page marked. I must have had a stack of books this high. So I go down there, and it was a Saturday afternoon for my first lesson with him. And I said, before we get started, Mr. Toski, these are some of the questions that have been on my mind. I just want to go over this. And I get this book with Jimmy Demaret, he says this, and Arnold Palmer says this, and whatever. And each time I would show him one of those questions, he said, all right, what else you got? All right, what else you got? Finally, I got through all the books. We went 20 minutes of a half-hour lesson, and I haven't gotten one answer yet. He says, "Is that everything?" That's everything. He picks up all my books and he goes over to the trash can next to the ball dispenser and he puts them in the trash can. They weren't even my book. I said, "Wait a minute, I can't throw these books away." He says, "If you and I are going to have a relationship, you're going to do what I tell you. And if you're not going to trust me, the best thing is you find somebody that you can trust. Because this is how I'm going to teach you." Got it. Okay. The tricky part is teaching is communication. And there are many great teachers in South Florida, no question. Not all of them say it the same way. I can tell you most of them want to get you to the same place. Their heart's in the right place, but they might say it differently. That doesn't mean this one's good or that one's bad. What it means is they are going to communicate with you in their way. And until you understand their communication, you might have an interim of struggling. But once you understand how I feel about getting your lead arm and hand in position and dominate, it's like I don't teach everybody the same way, but in one case I do. The laws of physics are not going to change for you or for him. So I have to find a way to achieve those. Now, how do I go about it? Well, I might have to say the same thing 1,000 different ways because Vicki will relate to it differently than Janie will. So I have to find a way that opens that lock in her brain and says, "I got it." That aha moment, that's what I'm looking for. And it's not easy. And sometimes, you know, we struggle a little bit until we both get on the same page. And believe me, after 44 years, I have dinner with Tosk a couple times a month. I play golf with him in the summertime as often as I can. And I'll go home thinking, so that's what he meant. And I'll remember something he told me way back in 1966, for crying out loud. Ah, I've been thinking of it all backwards. Until we had a quesadilla over at Duffy's and I got it figured out now. Ready, Ames?
Ready when you are.
Okay. Now I used to hit this shot on a towel. But then I saw in a tournament Craig Stadler got penalized for putting a towel down before he hit the shot, so I don't use a towel anymore. It's worth the cleaning bill to save two strokes. Okay, so the key thing here to see is what my arms and hands and wrists do. Because as I swing this club around me, you can see the rotation of my arms and hands quite vividly now, because that's what squares up the club. As you can see, the club face is aiming to the sky, then my arms and hands square the club up at impact, and then continue to rotate on over and around. I have to swing it very much like a baseball bat in that regard. If I swung on an angle, I would hit into the ground, and obviously I wouldn't hit the ball very well. So I'm going to try to hit this one out there, and all I'm going to try to do is relax my arms and hands so that they swing around me. And you'll hear the speed, and hopefully you'll see a good shot. I used to win a lot of milkshakes on that shot. Doesn't matter whether I'm on my knees or out of a chair or on one foot. Still, the same things apply. My hands and wrists are my controlling interests. They create most of my speed, control the path and the angle of the club face. And if you can get control over your arms and hands and wrists, you can learn how to play better golf. Have a great day.